It's Kevin Kietzman Uncanceled on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio. I'm Kevin Kietzman, and I'm fired up for today's show. We've obviously got some news and some fun topics. We will check in with Mark Van Parlay. I actually like Mark Van Parlay better than anything else. We'll check in with Mark a little bit later. We've got some good topics for him toward the end of the hour. But when I started doing a podcast 4.5 years ago, people said, well, what's your podcast going to be about? I said, it's going to be about, everybody wanted sports. So it's going to be about sports, right? I said, yes, sports, politics, and life. And I threw life on the end because I thought, well, that covers any topic we ever want to do. So I'm going to bring that from time to time to this show. And we're doing it today with a man that I met many, 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 many years ago and had him on a few times on Sports Radio 810. You hear him here every Saturday on KCMO Talk Radio. He's Jasper Mirabile of Jasper's Kitchen on Saturdays at 11. And, of course, Jasper's Restaurant. What I want to do today, and I know Pete's had him on before, I want to talk about his unbelievable family story of immigration to the United States and what they have accomplished since about 1900, I guess, when Leonardo, as I understand it, first came over. So that's going to be fun. We're going to talk with Jasper about that. We'll do that the first segment. Second segment, we'll talk about his restaurant, maybe get into recipes. If you're interested in calling him and asking him anything about food, we can get into that as well. There's an awful lot of talk about healthier food and better items for us, and all of those things are in the news, and maybe some celebrities that have been at his restaurant through the years. So we're looking forward to that. We begin today, though, with the headline, and that is it just continues to dominate the news like no other Trump story since he was inaugurated, and that is the tariffs. And there are two big newsmakers. One of them you just heard on the national news there about Scott Bessent saying, so what? He basically said, who cares what China does to us for retaliatory tariffs? His response is, so what? And so I hear that, and I'm a little leery of that, and I'm like, okay, I want to buy in, but why? And he says, well, they export 5 times as much stuff to us as we do to them. They limit things from other countries coming in their country. Like Apple doesn't have a chance. iPhone doesn't have a chance of being the best-selling phone in China because it's not a competitive marketplace. They make things in their country. They undercut it in price. They obviously sell more of those, and they make sure that Apple has a very limited market share in China, which is weird because a company like Apple's invested a lot there and has factories and spends a lot of money in China. But the trade deficit, forget the dollars, just the items going back to the tariff dollars, what the items are all worth is 5-1. So Bessent's like, really? They're raising their tariffs? What do we care? What we're tariffing their butts on is 5 times as much stuff as what they're buying from us. So that's the big difference. We're locked in on tariffs, but when we look at what we're doing with trade deficits with these countries, let's just talk about the value of all the items. Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, was on CNN last night. He said he wants 400% tariffs on China and said the only reason is that's the only way the taxes will be equal. We have to charge them 4 or 5-1. I don't think Trump's done yet. I think O'Leary's onto something. I think this 104% is nothing. China's raised theirs up into the 80s. Well, that's disproportionate. If the goods are 5-1, we need to keep going. And it's going to go until all the ships have stopped. And Kevin O'Leary says, what we need is Xi Jinping to be on an airplane headed for Washington, D.C., to sit down and make something that I don't even think that Trump needs to make this fair and equal. Forget that. They're communist. You're probably not going to get there. What if he gets halfway there? What if our 5-1 trade deficit gets down to 2.5-1 or 2-1? What an unbelievable win that would be. And it's pretty clear now the markets are at least settling in because it got wild between the United States and China while we all slept last night. They're settling in a little bit. I think they're starting to realize that this is really all about negotiating with Europe and China. And the rest of the countries are all just towing the line. They're all falling into place. All the other countries are falling into place. And Trump's big work, the heavy lifting here, is going to be China and Europe. And we'll see how it plays out. I don't know, man. I'm another guy that says, I don't know. I do know this. If I were president, I would not have the stones to do this. I wouldn't. I wouldn't have the political will or the fortitude. And Donald Trump's probably the only person in America that has the ability to do this and stay with it. Pretty cool stuff. So we can talk about that a little bit later on. Earlier today on Monday in the Morning, Patrick Tuohy from the Show Me Institute was a guest. Patrick Tuohy has been a fill-in host here, and I love the guy. I agree with him on like 90-some% of everything. I think he's a really smart guy. I think he's smarter than me. I think he's a great writer. I think he's a really big and deep thinker, and I love that about the Show Me Institute and the work that he does. But I was so hurt when he said, Pete, all due respect to your friend, Kevin Kietzman. I was like, wait, Patrick, wait, our friend. He slipped up. I'm teasing. I'm not picking a fight with Patrick Tuohy. We see the Royals and Chiefs differently and what may play out, although I've not made a prediction. I simply have never seen a team turn down 70% of stadium funds to build a stadium. I've never seen that. So if they stay in Missouri, and now Mayor Lucas says he can match that. It was interesting to hear Patrick Tuohy basically say Missouri will have a better offer than Kansas because of profits or investments lost or things like that. But then later he said, I don't know, Mayor Q says he's got all this money. I don't know where it's coming from, and there has to be a vote. Well, there can't be a vote before June 30th. That's when the deadline in Kansas is. So, again, I'm not making predictions. Patrick is pretty steadfast that he believes both teams are going to stay in Missouri. All I know is if they turn Kansas down, nobody's ever turned that down before. So we shall see. But here it is, earlier today on Monday in the Morning, Patrick Tuohy talking about Missouri being the better destination for the Royals and the Chiefs.
Missouri is in a much better position to make a bad offer. You know, it made me laugh.
That is such a good point. Missouri's in a better position to make a bad offer. You're right, because no one's ever tried the Star Bond deal on this size of a scale. And if they can't create the sales tax revenues to pay off the bonds, well, guess who's on the hook, right? And
look, with apologies to your friend there, Kevin Kietzman, if the Star Bonds were the deal that he thinks they are, they'd already have broken ground. They just aren't, and the guys who look over the money deals on the Chiefs and Royals side know that.
All right, there you go. Yours truly has been called out by the guest host of the show, Patrick Tuohy. That's awesome. Patrick, I got no hard feelings. It's incredible. I will say this. I'll take this to another level now with Patrick. All right, we like to report news. That is Patrick Tuohy of the Show Me Institute guaranteeing that the Chiefs and Royals stay in Missouri. That's what that was. Mocking someone who talks about the Star Bonds and saying they're not as good an offer and basically distancing yourself from them. He's thrown down. He's made his prediction. The Royals and Chiefs will be in Missouri. And Patrick is like that. Now, he loves Missouri. And there may be a little KDS going on here. There's some people in Missouri that have Kansas derangement syndrome. They do. People in Missouri know this. They readily admit it. I have lots of friends, relatives, business associates in the state of Missouri. They know this. They hate the state of Kansas more than the state of Kansas hates Missouri. That's okay. It's just a fact of our city. I've lived here my whole life. I'm qualified to say this. There may be some Kansas derangement syndrome in there with Patrick. That might be. I don't know. I don't know how there's going to be a vote before June 30th. I don't think Kansas can easily extend the Star Bond offer. Maybe they can somewhere down the road. But are the Chiefs and Royals going to call chicken on Kansas and say, we need you to offer up the Star Bond again somewhere down the road because we're going to wait on a vote in August or November in Jackson County, which nobody's even talking about, or in Kansas City, Missouri, or in the state of Missouri. No, this needs to be done in Jeff City, and it needs to be done without a vote if it's going to stay in Missouri. Voters yesterday passed a wide variety of things here. They voted for taxes. They voted taxes for prisons in Kansas City. They voted taxes for schools, which they haven't done in a long period of time. It was an off election in April, very low turnout, 15% of the electorate, and people who really wanted these things in a Democrat-heavy city voted for more taxes of things that they believe the government should pay for. They believe the government's responsible for schools. These are ideologues, folks. They believe the government should run the schools and the Department of Education should stay where it is and everything should be the same, just more money. And they believe in the tax that's been there for the prisons and want to keep that going. You ask those same people to vote for a billionaire, they're the ones holding picket signs. The same people that voted yes for taxes yesterday in Kansas City are the ones lined up that hate Elon Musk and they hate Donald Trump. Do you know why they hate him? Because they're billionaires and they hate billionaires. They'll tolerate their leftist billionaires, but they really hate billionaires. And when push comes to shove, the bottom line is Clark Hunt and John Sherman are conservative billionaires. And they're not going to vote yes to give them money. They're not interested in giving sports owners money. It's a totally different thing than schools or prisons. You can't be misled by the elections that were yesterday. We saw the beat down the Royals and Chiefs took last April in the election, and it was a slaughter. And things are worse now, and people are jumpy about tariffs and trade and all this other stuff. No. Nobody's voting for a team owner right now. Sorry, it's not going to happen. It's hard to happen in good times, in perfect situations. It's not going to happen now with a gun to their head to move to Kansas. Good luck. Again, I'm not making predictions. If you ask me what I think, and I'm not, if I think there's a chance the Royals stay in Missouri. Quentin Lucas seems like he's planted his flag, that he's got that taken care of. He's very confident. And I think the Chiefs' best option is the Legends in KCK to take that money and build there and have their own facility, because there really is no real estate and entertainment opportunity at the Truman Sports Complex. It does not exist. Mark Donovan's already on record saying this isn't the power and light we're talking about. We're talking about building a couple things we can use on game day. Well, game day is 10 times a year. That doesn't sound like great business. We will see. Patrick Toohey, we shall see. Appreciate you mentioning me, and I totally respect his opinion. In many ways, I hope he's right, because Missouri's had him all along, and I think most people in Kansas City would wind up being happier at the end of the day if the apple cart was not upset. So we shall see. I met Jasper Mirabile many, many years ago when I was on Sports Radio 810, and we were doing some promotions and things with Marco Polo's next door to Jasper's, and featuring lunch specials and things like that. We had him on. He's such an agreeable gentleman and wonderful personality. His family has a rich and unbelievable story in Kansas City that dates back, well, his ancestors go back about 125 years coming to America, and I just think it's one of the great success stories in Kansas City. If you haven't been to Jasper's recently, 103rd and State Line. He's got other businesses there. He's got a sports bar. He's got Marco Polo's. Jasper's got his hands in everything, but it goes way, way back to Leonardo in 1900 coming to America. Jasper Mirabile, how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm fantastic, Kevin. I got to compliment you very quickly. I've been listening to you since you've been on the show here, follow the podcast, and just great to have you at KCMO. Really, I mean, you're right next door to me when we're taping every week, so I enjoy that, seeing you and giving you a wave and just following you, what you're doing.
We'll talk, thank you. That's kind of you. We'll talk about the restaurant in our next segment, but I want to know about your family's history here and how this all happened. I know it started as a bar in the 40s, and it would have been your grandfather or great-grandfather that came over here in 1900.
My grandfather did. Leonardo and my grandmother, Josephine, came through Louisiana and up to Kansas City. My grandpa actually was involved with a bakery here in town, and then he dabbled with some other little businesses trying to make a living, and then he went to New York. And he stayed in New York until my dad was about 13 years old. Came back to Kansas City, and he owned a bar called the Lucky Tavern.
The Lucky Tavern?
Yeah, down on 12th Street.
12th Street, okay, downtown.
Yeah, and it was one of these bars where a lot of problems. There was a lot of fighting and things going on every day, and my dad did everything he could to get him out of that bar.
That was maybe the 40s?
Yeah, so that was back in the late 40s and early 50s. And so my dad found this property on 75th and State Line.
Okay.
And everybody told my dad, "You're absolutely crazy. You'll never make it out south. The what do you call the streetcar? Doesn't go that far. So what are you doing out this far? The road's a dirt road from there on to where we are now." And so he said, "You know what? I'm going to take a chance with it." And April 1st, 1954, he opened up Jasper's.
Nice. And they started serving up Italian dishes. It was a small place.
It was a small little place. It only had 12 tables.
Okay, so was it more known as a local bar with,
exactly.
with food?
It was Rose's Bar beforehand. So it was Rose's Bar. And then my dad started putting in a couple Italian dishes every day. My mom, and I love this story. It's in the cookbook also. My mom would boil hard-boiled eggs, and then she'd put them in vinegar and put them on the bar, and that was the money she got to keep.
Okay,
and she made about $8 a week on that. How about that?
Right, and started serving some Italian dishes.
Exactly, and little by little, he just kept expanding, and then we hired a chef. My dad hired a chef named Manuel Cervantes, and that led to more of a family style Italian restaurant. Took over the room next door, and it became much, much bigger.
Are there recipes today from then?
Oh, yeah. Matter of fact, I'll post it today for you, the photo of the Bible we call it. It's in the office. and it's the old cookbook.
Oh,
and it's about 180 pages. And still today, I'll go back in that kitchen, and my guys, now they don't have that version in the kitchen, but they do have the recipes, and they're going through them, and we still do everything in small batches.
And these are all authentic Italian, Northern Italian?
Northern Italian, Southern Italian, mostly Southern Italian.
Okay.
The Northern Italian bit didn't come around until after the early 70s.
Okay. And in America, great Italian restaurants, are these still the absolute traditional recipes from Ireland, from Italy, or have they changed for American tastes over the years?
So I would say, this is a great question, because I had this conversation with Lydia Bastianich the other night about the Italian cooking in America. And when she first came over in the 60s and what we have now, things have changed a lot. I mean, we're old school. We're doing old school dishes, especially after the war, with the spaghetti and meatballs, things you didn't see in Italy, the lasagna, the way we make our lasagna in America today. But they've evolved, and now you see some of these Italian dishes in Italy. That's what I love.
Oh, yeah.
But they have evolved a lot, and, the dishes are more refined with the risottos and the polenta. But I'm still one of the back to the basics, I'm working on a recipe right now, rigatoni with broken meatballs. And it's just what's left over, the meatballs break up in the sauce. So it's
count
something,
me in on
so
that.
it's unique. Yeah, it's something different.
I break them up when I eat them anyway,
exactly.
right?
Come on, so now they're broken up for you.
Like little mini pieces of
There you
meatball
go,
in there.
there
That's
you go.
Absolutely fantastic. So then you made the hard decision, or was it a hard decision, with your dad to move south to 103rd Street?
So my dad, my brother Leonard, myself, and my mama were all involved with that. I'll be honest with you, I was the one who was against it.
Really?
I didn't want to leave 75th Street. Business was very good. Business was, it was like we were at the top of our game. Mobile 4 stars, AAA 4 Diamond, Holiday Award, you named the Dorona Award. We had it down there on 75th Street. And there was no really reason to go. But when Walgreens came a-knocking, after 1 year of my dad negotiating, and this property came up on 103rd and State Line, and I didn't see it. My dad kept telling me, Jay, you don't know what's out there right now. You're sitting in this restaurant in these 4 walls, and you don't know what's going on around us. And we need to expand, and also we need to take the ties and the jackets off, because people wanted something more casual. And my dad didn't get to see the new restaurant. Unfortunately, he passed away during the building of the new location, but he had it all in place, and this is everything that he wanted.
We got about a minute before we break. We're talking with Jasper Mirabile. Jasper, what is amazing to me is the really smart business people in America. So many great business leaders have said, don't ever pass your family business down, because the second generation won't work as hard as you.
Yeah.
They will take it for granted. That never happened with your family.
No, and I'll tell you what, it's happening right now with the 3rd and 4th generation, passing it down to them, and I couldn't do it without them right now. My nephews and my great-nephews are running the restaurant, and they do one hell of a job. I think they do a better job than I did. I'll stick to my cooking. Leonard takes care of the books, but the boys are doing a fantastic job with it.
I get the feeling someone in your family has always been a natural marketer, too, with a
There you
type A
go. There you
personality.
go, yeah.
Knew everybody in town, and we're going to get you in
That's
here.
it.
Jasper Mirabile is our guest. He hosts Jasper's Kitchen every Saturday at 11 right here on KCMO Talk Radio. We're sitting here with my friend Jasper Mirabile having a good time talking about a lot of the days and things that have changed. When I've been to Jasper's, one of the things that I know about is the great tableside service. All of the things that you do, it is more than just a meal. It's an experience at Jasper's. And we were talking during the break about Uber Eats and DoorDash and all these other things, which is a boon for your industry. And I know it's been very good for you. As a traditional restaurateur, is it a little bit disheartening that so many young people just order something from Jasper's and they get it home and they don't get the full experience of dining in the restaurant?
Exactly, because that's the whole idea of restaurant. The Latin term comes from to restore, and that's our job. To restore you, to fill you up, to give you something. Well, we're doing it through DoorDash. We're doing it through Menufy also. I understand that. But you're not getting the tableside mozzarella, which starts next week. Here's a little selfish plug. April 15th. It's the only good thing about tax day, I tell everybody.
Yeah.
And we do the tableside mozzarella.
It's so impressive.
Unique. Yeah, something different. And that's what people, but kids today, they're different. I'll tell you that. I mean, people who have DoorDash Starbucks to their office, I don't get that at all.
Oh, I think most restaurants have an expectation that when customers leave on the way home, they say, hey, that was a good meal. And they talk about it. When they walk away and say, that was a good meal, that was some experience. That tableside mozzarella and, the things that you see in the dessert tray and you're going around table to table. Man, there's something about that. That is so traditional and so missing in our culture today.
That's what it's all about. And I know I go to some restaurants, I'll never even see a manager. No one ever checks a table. And I'm not just saying because of me. I don't care when I go out somewhere. I don't want to even be noticed. But, and I got to tell you something. Wait, it just hit me. I didn't bring you anything to eat because I'm taping next door.
That's okay.
I should have brought you some cannolis.
That's okay.
But I'll send over some cannolis or some limoncello to someone to introduce myself. That's what it's about. You have to be in marketing. You have to be in marketing. If you're going to be a restaurateur, you have to be a chef. You have to be, no politics. I'll tell you that.
Right.
But you got to know your customers, and you got to be out there with them and, talking with them and seeing what they want. Otherwise, you get stuck back in the office or somewhere else. You're not going to make it.
What is your favorite dish there? And are you most famous for your meatballs, and how are they different? Because I know everybody has meatballs, but yours are really different.
Thank you. Well, I love veal. So probably the veal valdostano.
Okay.
It's a 2-piece of veal. In between, it has fontina cheese, prosciutto ham, and a white wine lemon sauce. It's just like old school from the Valdesto region of Italy. It's about as authentic as can be. The meatballs, yes, they are made daily, about 440. I think there's 4 batches.
440 meatballs a day.
And I'm telling you, you'll see Leonardo, he's in the back. Nardo, he's in the back rolling those meatballs. I bought him this big machine, and he doesn't use it.
Really?
No, he doesn't like the machine.
He doesn't by hand?
I bought him a machine that can put out 220 meatballs in 3 minutes.
If he does it by hand, is it a different texture? Is it better?
You just hit it. You know it. It's
Yeah.
a different texture, and he likes the meatballs the way he makes them. I love his meatballs. I told you I'm working on this broken meatball project right now. But the meatballs on the meatball sandwich, the meatballs on the pasta, meatballs with ricotta cheese, that's huge right now.
Right. So my mom cooked. We didn't have meatballs when we grew up, but she had meatloaf.
Yeah.
Very traditional
Our meatloaf
American
is
thing.
just our meatball mix.
Is it the same thing?
Yeah,
I was going to
exactly.
ask you about. I've never had the Italian meatloaf, but
Yeah.
I've always felt like the meatballs that I love should fall apart fairly
That's
easily.
right,
I like them to be
exactly.
kind of soft and
Exactly.
So the meatloaf is very similar or identical.
So exactly, it's the same thing, same
And
sauce.
so how do you
and
serve
everything.
it?
So we just slice it. We have it over at Marco Polo's. I think it's a Thursday night special, but it's every day we have it on the lunch menu. I get it.
Is it served as a sandwich?
Yeah, no. But I was just going to tell you, I love it. I'll grab a couple pieces of Wonder Bread.
I was gonna say.
We're ready for this Wonder Bread and some ketchup, and I'll make a cold sandwich. Oh man,
My
that's
mom
heaven
used
for
to
me.
make fun of me. I liked her meatloaf better left over between Wonder Bread, eating it as a sandwich.
Now, my mom would put a little bit of glaze on top of her meatloaf.
Sure.
She put brown sugar on it.
Okay.
And she put hard-boiled eggs in the middle of it, so when you sliced it, it had a little design to it. That
You
was
could
unique.
see the egg?
Yeah, exactly. You see the
Really?
hard-boiled egg. But, I still think about that. Every time I eat I'm going to have a cold meatloaf sandwich for lunch, buddy.
There you
in
go.
honor of you today.
That sounds fantastic. I think my mom's glaze was ketchup and maybe a little sugar on it or
ketchup and
something
sugar,
like that.
exactly.
That's
That's
pretty much
it. Yep, brown sugar.
But it was really good and a whole lot of fun. So when folks come there for a special event, how does it make you and your staff feel when somebody proposes or celebrities come in and they're like, "Oh, look who's over there, look who's over here"? How does that change the energy in a restaurant?
You know what? We love it. When we see a gentleman get down on his knees, we always immediately send over a little champagne to toast. But, when you see families come together, and that's what our place is right now, it's evolving right now. You'll see people here, the great-grandpa now is having dinner with the great-grandchildren. And when he was younger, he was eating dinner back in the 50s at Jasper's.
Right.
And now the tradition continues. I saw that for our big anniversary party. And you see these young families now growing, and they're coming in. It's not about fine dining. It's not about, only coming in for an anniversary. Getting together and just bringing people back to the table. And since COVID, that's a big, big thing. Getting families back to the table.
Let's talk about celebrities, sports celebrities, regular celebrities, whatever. Maybe from when you were a kid and your dad had the place. And I know you've moved a lot of the older stuff from the location when you moved. You've still got some great memorabilia from the early days. Now that you're 103rd and State Line, what were those stories like? Because I'm assuming as a kid you couldn't be there all the time, but you may have heard that somebody famous was there or politicians or whatever.
Sure.
And then what have you seen running Jasper?
I'll tell you I go back to the 70s, 76, during the Republican convention when John Glenn, the astronaut, came in, when he was running, Ronald Reagan. We go way back with people. I'm telling you, we're talking about football players here in town. It was unbelievable. Len Dawson. That was like a weekly. It was no big deal. You saw Len Dawson. Hank Stram Leonard's got the tablecloth where Hank Stram wrote out a play on it.
Oh, no
How
kidding.
about that? Yeah. So it's little things like that, but also Mitzi Gaynor. I'm talking about Ed McMahon spent a week with us and at our house at nighttime because after the restaurant would close, my dad would bring him back to the house.
He probably needed to go someplace to sleep
exactly.
it off, right?
So there were some famous people who ate at Jasper's because of Starlight and all that and our connection with Starlight. But even today, a lot of rock and roll, it doesn't matter. People come in town. Some people you don't even know are there. When some people do come there, we don't really like it when some of the guests are texting and say, hey, such and such is in the private room. And then you get some younger people outside waiting to meet them all. So we have a little secret entrance they can get in and out of.
Perfect. So how do they know? Is it just decades of word of mouth all across the country?
I think so. Back in the 70s, my dad set out to change the restaurant, and it became more of a fine dining. And so I still have to live up to some of those standards, but the reputation, the name got around the country with the Dorona Award, Chava Hale, and all that. And it just became, just like they said in a magazine back in the 70s during the convention, everything's up to date in Kansas City. Barbecue, but there's a Italian restaurant there that people are going to, and that kind of put us back on the map. And since then, it's just been you come to Kansas City, you want to have barbecue, a good steak, and go to Jasper's.
We're talking with Jasper Mirabile. Jasper, do you have a game plan at the restaurant if Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce show up?
How'd you know about that?
I don't know, but I assume.
Oh, I thought you said you do have one.
No, I assume everybody has to.
We
all
do.
the fine restaurants in Kansas City have to have some sort of a game plan. Now, you would know in advance; they're not just going to drop in, right? But you have a game plan as to how that would go down?
Exactly. We have private rooms that you don't see in the main dining room, and ways they can come into the dining room and not be noticed. And we never say that. That's one thing you don't see. You don't see pictures in the restaurant of people who have eaten at the restaurant. Sometimes I'll put a ticket up, like I did a few years ago. I said, boy, I wish I could tell you who's eating here right now. And there'll be 1,000 comments on social media. So I don't like teasing people. But sometimes back then, oh, I'm trying to think back then. Boy, give me a minute here.
No, that's okay.
I'm trying to think. I can't remember who it was.
But you were like, I can't post. This gets posted now. Out the door.
Come on, exactly.
That's fun though. That is fun. And
a lot of celebrities, a lot of recording artists come in, and heck, it's just it's just a dinner for them. It's not a big deal. Some of the football players, recent football players, a lot of sportscasters when they're in town will come in.
That's really cool. Okay, so tell me about the show you do every Saturday right here on KCMO Talk Radio. I hear it almost every Saturday.
Thank you.
I don't know what it is about 11 o'clock Saturday, but I think I'm always in my car.
That's what I like.
Always, which is great. So it's on, and I hear it, and a couple of weeks ago you had a wonderful lady on that had a food truck. I think it was a crepes.
Yeah, exactly.
She was
the
selling.
creper, exactly.
It's unbelievable. I'm listening to this. Your family is so ingrained in the restaurant community in Kansas City. You literally do a radio show to feature other people. Where did you get this idea?
Exactly. So David Ball and I are having lunch one day, and we're sitting there, and I'm talking, and I'm probably talking too much, and he finally looks up and he says, why don't we have a radio show? I'll put you on the radio show. I said, let's do it. We called over here. Donna came out, and a couple other people signed up on a handshake.
Yeah.
How about that?
And
it's all about other restaurants, even though it's called Live from Jasper's Kitchen. And I know that sometimes John Taylor and I will talk about what's happening at the restaurant or anniversary and all, but it's about supporting the local farmers, local food artisans, and getting the word, even with Hen House. Very rarely do you see a Hen House guest on there. But they've sponsored this show for 19 years. I don't know another food show in the country that has had the same sponsor. I don't know another show in the country that's had the same sponsor for 19 years.
That's
how
amazing.
Lucky we are. But you know what? I find people that you don't usually find. Like you just said, the crepe truck. Or just some guy selling something off the street, came up with his pizza, and now he's got a pizzeria, Johnny Joe's Pizzeria.
Yeah.
He was selling pizza out of his apartment. So we love discovering, we love showcasing people like that.
There's been a lot of talk in the news of RFK Jr. and, what's in food. My wife is on this kick. Man, she wants me off like Cheez-Its because it has yellow number 4 in it.
My daughter's the same way.
All these things with food dyes and additives and things like that. And she's got a scanner on her phone when she buys products. She goes to Whole Foods.
My nephew's got it.
And it rates it like 1 to 100 of whether or not, nope, she'll be like, nope, that's 42. I ain't buying that.
Exactly.
So what have you noticed with people that supply your ingredients? And you guys are obviously a great high-end scratch kitchen. What do you think of the restaurant industry, and what kind of changes will they have to go through to become healthier if some of this comes down the pike?
So the problem started back in the 70s and 80s because they started cutting down on labor in the restaurants. So you bought things already prepared, frozen goods already prepared, everything in a can. And that's when problems started to happen. Not using the fresh, not using local. Of course, you can't have local corn in December. I realize that. But, there's other ways around it. And there's Anthony Spino. He's going to be on the show this weekend. He talks about wellness in schools, which is great. And that's what people need to do. You start there with the children and what they're eating, and then it goes on to when they get older and it's unacceptable, Yeah, we want a piece of candy. Yeah, we'll have a cookie and a brownie once in a while. But you got to watch it. You're putting in these preservatives. I mean, there's no doubt about it. That's the problem with the country right now. And just watching what we're eating, there's nothing the matter with having a nice steak, baked potato, and a vegetable. But instead, we come up with these sauces that have like 24 ingredients in them. I don't get it. I really don't. So you're going to see a change again, I think, in the restaurant industry where we're going back to some of the basics.
Right.
And that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be with all these. You go to Italy, you don't see these ingredients in their dishes. They're not allowed. You read a package over there compared to a package of cookies here. There's like 36 items in that package
so
over
you
here.
Support this initiative.
Oh, I do 100%. 100%.
Yeah, it's going to be good for us. We'll notice the difference.
There's no doubt about it.
Will
You'll
we
feel
better?
Yeah, exactly. Come on. Because that's what happens, especially with the sugar. Look, I'm a little overweight. I'm not admit it, and that sugar's my problem.
You're a chef.
But yeah, come on.
We don't like you if you're skinny.
You trust a skinny chef? Come on.
No.
But you got to watch things, and there's moderation, and there's something, it's okay. But when you get into all these chemicals that we're putting into our system, and then we're trying to add all these vitamins, to make sure we're feeling better. Come on, it's one or the other. You got to have a nice little scale there somewhere to kind of watch everything. So I think there's going to be a big, big difference, especially like this wellness in schools and teaching the children from a younger age what's good. My little granddaughter, just the other day, I had something at the house. She says, "Oh, no, Poppy." She says, "I've already had the cookie." I mean, like
nice.
5 years old.
Okay.
I was like shocked. There you go. I love it.
That's great. No, that's great. Okay, we're going to stop several times this year on the way to Royals games. We go right by there.
Thank
we're
you.
Do it. We may have to come a little early dinner or go to the deli or maybe stop at Ugly Joe's and have
There
one
you go.
and whatever it may
There
be.
you go.
But we're gonna make a point with our friends whenever we go. We're going to stop in on our way to Royals games.
Well,
a little trickier on Sundays. Those are 1
Yeah,
o'clock
exactly.
games. Maybe we'll just stop on the way back and have the full dinner plow
There you
afterwards.
go, buddy. Always. There's always a table for you. That's what I like to tell everyone.
Thank you. That's so kind of you. I can't thank you enough for coming in today.
No, thank you, Kevin. And I'm telling you, I love coming over here watching you, man. I love listening to the show. Welcome to KCMO. And it's a little late welcome to you.
It's good. We've
you,
seen each other in the hallway. You've welcomed me already.
Thank
this
you,
is
my
not
friend.
some random thing. I've been watching Jasper walk around the hallways. Like, I got to get him in here, man, because I want to get hungry while we're talking on the
Thank
radio.
you.
That's
71 years. I'm just keeping the tradition going. Thank you.
Congratulations, you and your family. Jasper Mirabile, Jasper's Kitchen, every Saturday at 11 right here on KCMO Talk Radio. Man, I hope it came through the airwaves there how comfortable that interview was. A couple of gentlemen that like each other a lot, known each other for a long time. Some interviews, not that they're ever contentious, but they can be uncomfortable. Somebody's nervous, whatever. And a lot of you folks can tell. Many of you have listened to radio and interviews for a long, long time. I hope that one was more fun than most. I certainly enjoyed it. I was looking forward to it for a week, Mark. I couldn't wait for him to get in here.
Yeah, it sounded like a chat around the bar, which is what I like. The best radio is, in my opinion.
He's the best. And that guy's just filled with life. I don't think he has bad days. I love people that don't have bad days.
And who have great stories.
And good food.
Yes.
And
all
good
three.
food.
He hits all three.
Oh yeah, Jasper, we're gonna hold you up to it. All right, we're looking for some tasty treats in here at some point. I'm sure that will be the case. You know how much I love the Masters, right? It's Masters Week. It starts tomorrow morning.
I'm getting into it.
247 private jets landed in Augusta, Georgia yesterday. Now, the players are already there. That's not them. That's just bigwigs coming in for the Masters. It's crazy. There's a great photo today of Cam Smith, who's an Australian golfer who is in the field. He's on the Live Golf Tour. He went out in his practice round today in slacks and a sport coat with a button-up shirt, like the old-time golfers used to do. And he's got a ball cap on, too, but it really looks cool. They just treat the Masters differently. The par 3 contest will be later today. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait for the Masters. I just love it. Okay, here we go. Guy Benson is coming to town on June 12th. You can get tickets by going to KCMOTalkRadio.com. And I cannot implore you enough to listen to Guy Benson every afternoon right here on KCMO Talk Radio. Not just because he's got a good show, but because of the alternative. You know I torture myself every now and then, Mark. You know what I do, don't you? You know what I did yesterday?
Did you flip it up the dial?
I did flip it up the aisle. And there was no Dana, so it wasn't a cackle fest. It was good. Kamala wasn't on the air. That was nice. So I didn't have to listen to her liberal stuff spewing and then her repeating, I'm not into politics, but oh, God, I'm so liberal. I love Kamala. The other dude is on, and he's got somebody else with him. This is Scott, right? And I don't know who's the guy on with him. It's not the producer. There's somebody else in there. I'm not sure it was. He says, I had to pull my car over. I wrote it down. I'm not kidding. Quote, I love politics. I always have. I wanted to be a congressman. He went on to say, I watch way too much cable news. I'm hooked on it. When they stop talking about politics, I turn it to another channel to get more politics. The show that doesn't talk politics.
Well, at least finally somebody admitted it.
The co-host said, we don't talk about politics here. And all I want to do is call in and go, no, you don't talk politics. You just talk about that you don't talk about politics. They want so badly to be themselves. Scott Parks, release yourself. Do it. Free yourself from the shackles of Odyssey. You can do this. Be yourself. You have an open microphone. You have a talk show. Dana, be yourselves. For God's sake, don't shame the medium. Be yourself. Your program directors will be okay with it. It probably won't even hurt you in the ratings. I don't know. People like your show. It's great. But God, be yourself. Don't be fake.
Now, when I worked over there, he was a Republican, and I think he has some TDS, but he might be coming back around.
Really? Well, how can you tell? He just tells you he loves watching politics on TV. That's what he likes. How about this one? You've heard of the fight oligarchy rallies that they're having? The Democrats? Have you heard about these, Mark? Okay, well, it's Bernie and it's AOC.
Oh, yeah, like a little rally here and there.
Like, I'm not sure most of the people there know what oligarchs are or what oligarchy is. Like, they know how to mismanage marketing on the Democrat Party in the worst possible ways.
Bernie likes shouting the word more than anything.
I think that's right. Oligarchy. AOC got on an airplane to go to a fight oligarchy rally in first class. Making the rounds on social media. I don't begrudge her for making money in flying first class. But flying first class to a fight oligarchy rally just doesn't seem right. What do you think the Vegas odds are here, Mark Van Parlay, for Stephen A. Smith to be the Democrat nominee, to earn the nominee in 2028? The Vegas odds, 1 to 100 odds.
1 to 100.
Yeah, this is not a 5 to 1, whatever. It's a percentage chance that he gets the nomination as of right now in the betting markets.
Probably like 5%.
That's exactly it. You nailed it. 5%. That's exactly it. There's obviously a lot of other candidates. I think that's low. I think he'd be a good bet.
Yeah, I mean, he has the name recognition, which is huge. But other than that, I just don't know. I don't know if he can do it.
Getting the nomination can be the easiest part. Winning the general is the hard part.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Okay, so he's African-American. He's got a built-in vote. He can steal Trump votes because Trump got all these black males to vote for him, right? He's probably going to steal some of those.
Sports fans, yeah.
Sports fans, there's more than a 5% chance. He hasn't even announced he's running, but I find that one interesting. So we'll see what Stephen A. Smith decides to do. If you were his best friend, what would you advise him to do, Mark?
I would just tell him to keep talking about sports on TV.
Didn't raking in the dough?
Yeah.
Because he's making it.
You keep making the money.
Royals won 3 in a row. Bobby Witt just stole a game last night.
Love it. Love it.
You look good in blue, man.
Oh, thank you.
You've been wearing a lot of Chiefs gear, Nebraska gear, and KU gear. It's baseball season.
It is.
Keep that hat going. Let's keep this streak going. The Royals weren't very good last night, and Bobby Witt found a way to win one. The Vince Show is up next.